The first clue that my wife was living another life came from a photo of a coffee cup. Not a romantic message. Not a suspicious hotel receipt. A stupid photo of a latte. I remember staring at my phone at nearly midnight while she slept beside me. I had been scrolling through a local community page when I noticed an account commenting under a post about cafes. The username was unfamiliar. The profile picture showed a woman from behind, sitting by a window. Nothing unusual. Then I saw the coffee cup. It had a tiny chip on the rim. I knew that cup. We owned it. I actually laughed at myself at first. Plenty of people owned similar cups. I almost closed the page. But curiosity got the better of me. I clicked the profile. The account belonged to a woman named Vanessa. My wife's name wasn't Vanessa. The profile was full of photos. Books. Restaurants. Selfies with half her face hidden. Pictures of places I recognized but couldn't immediately place. I should have stopped looking. Instead, I spent 2 hours scrolling. And by the time I put my phone down, a strange feeling had settled in my stomach. For the first time in 12 years of marriage, I felt like I was looking at a stranger. Before all of this happened, I genuinely thought we were happy. Not perfect. Nobody is. But stable. We had been together for nearly 15 years. Married for 12. 2 kids. A house with an annoying mortgage. Weekend grocery trips. Arguments about laundry and bills. Normal life. My wife had always been private online. She barely posted on her real accounts. No selfies. No personal updates. If someone had asked me to describe her relationship with social media, I would have said she didn't care about it. That's why the Vanessa profile bothered me. The woman behind that account posted almost daily. Long thoughts about life. Photos of meals. Stories from road trips. Little details about her feelings. Things my wife never shared with me anymore. The more I looked, the more similarities appeared. A bracelet she wore. A tattoo on her wrist. The same blue jacket hanging in our closet. Every discovery made me feel both smarter and sicker. I kept telling myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe an old friend. Maybe a shared account. Maybe I was losing my mind. But deep down, another thought had already started growing. What if my wife had built an entirely separate identity? And what if I wasn't part of it? For weeks, I said nothing. I watched. I hated myself for it, but I watched. The Vanessa account became an obsession. Every night after everyone went to bed, I checked new posts. Sometimes I would compare timestamps. My wife would tell me she was working late. An hour later, Vanessa would upload a photo from a wine bar. My wife would say she spent the afternoon shopping. Vanessa would post pictures from another town. The coincidences became impossible to ignore. Then I noticed something else. A man. His name appeared constantly in comments. He reacted to everything she posted. Inside jokes. Flirting. Private references. The kind of language people use when they're emotionally close. I remember reading one comment over and over. "Can't wait to see you again this weekend." My chest tightened. My wife had told me she was attending a work conference that weekend. I barely slept that night. The next morning she kissed me goodbye before leaving for work. I stood in the doorway watching her drive away. Everything looked exactly the same. The house. The street. The routine. But something inside me had shifted. For the first time, I seriously considered that my marriage might not be what I thought it was. I tried to convince myself there was still an innocent explanation. Maybe the man was a friend. Maybe I was connecting dots that weren't connected. Maybe stress was making me paranoid. Then I found the photographs. They weren't public. One evening Vanessa accidentally uploaded an image to a shared story. It disappeared quickly. But I saw it. And I took a screenshot. The picture showed her reflection in a hotel mirror. Her face was mostly hidden. But the man stood behind her. His hand rested on her waist. I zoomed in. My hands were shaking. The woman wore a necklace I had given my wife on our 10th anniversary. There was no doubt anymore. None. I remember sitting alone in my car for nearly an hour afterward. I couldn't cry. I couldn't think. I just stared through the windshield. People always imagine betrayal arriving dramatically. A confession. A dramatic confrontation. A screaming argument. For me, it arrived in complete silence. A silent screenshot. A silent realization. A silent understanding that the person I trusted most had been lying to me for a very long time. And somehow, that silence hurt more than anything else. After discovering the photo, I started digging deeper. I know that sounds unhealthy. Maybe it was. But once the illusion cracked, I needed answers. The Vanessa account went back nearly 7 years. 7 years. I felt physically ill scrolling through old posts. Birthdays. Vacations. Romantic captions. References to memories I had never shared with her. At first, I assumed the relationship with the man was recent. I was wrong. The earliest comments from him dated back more than 5 years. 5 years. Half a decade. While I believed we were building a life together, she had apparently been building another one somewhere else. The worst part wasn't even the cheating. It was seeing how happy she looked. Not forced happiness. Not fake smiles. Real joy. The kind I hadn't seen from her in years. That realization destroyed me. Because suddenly a question appeared that I couldn't escape. Had she been pretending with me all this time? Or had the version of her I loved simply stopped existing years ago? I didn't know which answer hurt more. Even now, I still don't. The confrontation happened on a Tuesday. Nothing special about the day. The kids were at school. She came home around 6. I was sitting at the kitchen table. Her face changed immediately when she saw me. I think she sensed something. "What happened?" she asked. I slid my phone across the table. The screenshot was already open. She looked at it. Then at me. Then back at the screen. For several seconds neither of us spoke. Finally she whispered, "How long have you known?" Not, "What is this?" Not, "You're mistaken." Not, "That's not me." "How long have you known?" That answer alone told me everything. I remember laughing. A horrible, broken laugh. "Who the hell is Vanessa?" I asked. Her eyes filled with tears instantly. But I was beyond sympathy. I wanted explanations. I wanted logic. I wanted reality to make sense again. Instead, she sat down slowly and said something I'll never forget. "I don't know who I am anymore." And somehow, those words scared me more than the affair itself. The conversation lasted almost 6 hours. Most of it felt unreal. She admitted the account belonged to her. She admitted the relationship. She admitted the lies. But every answer created 10 new questions. According to her, the fake identity started as an escape. A place where nobody knew her. A place where she wasn't someone's wife. Someone's mother. Someone's employee. Just herself. At least that was how it began. Then she met him online. A friendship became emotional intimacy. Emotional intimacy became love. Love became something physical. Listening to her describe it felt like being stabbed repeatedly. She spoke through tears. I sat there numb. At one point I asked, "Did you ever plan to leave me?" She looked away. That pause lasted maybe 2 seconds. But it felt like an hour. And I knew. Before she answered, I knew. "Sometimes," she whispered. Sometimes. One word. One tiny word. Yet it shattered 15 years of memories more effectively than any confession ever could. The following weeks were chaos. Neither of us knew how to function. We barely slept. We barely ate. We avoided discussing the future because every conversation turned into a fight. The children noticed immediately. Kids always notice. They may not understand details, but they feel tension. Our daughter asked why Mom cried so much. Our son asked why I started sleeping in the guest room. I lied. Constantly. I hated it. Friends noticed too. Family members started asking questions. Meanwhile, my wife begged me not to tell anyone. She said she was ashamed. That she never intended for things to go this far. That she still loved me. Those words made me furious. Because if she loved me, how did 5 years happen? How did thousands of lies happen? How did entire weekends disappear into another relationship? Every apology sounded sincere. Every apology also sounded meaningless. Trust wasn't broken. Trust was demolished. Reduced to dust. And every morning I woke up wondering whether there was anything left worth saving. The hardest part wasn't learning about the affair. It was learning about the person she'd become. Or maybe always was. There were details she revealed gradually. Small secrets hidden beneath larger secrets. She had friends who only knew her as Vanessa. People who believed she lived in another city. People who had never heard my name. Entire conversations existed where our marriage simply didn't exist. I wasn't a husband. I was erased. I remember feeling ridiculous for being hurt by that. But I was. Because it wasn't just infidelity anymore. It was replacement. A parallel life. A version of reality where I had no place. I started questioning every memory. Every vacation. Every anniversary. Every smile in old photographs. Were those moments real? Or was she mentally somewhere else the entire time? The uncertainty poisoned everything. Even good memories became suspicious. I stopped looking at family photos. I stopped listening to songs we loved. I stopped visiting places we used to enjoy together. Everything felt contaminated. Like the truth had leaked backward through time and ruined the past itself. Eventually I asked to see their messages. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted closure. Maybe I wanted pain. I honestly don't know. She resisted. Then she gave me access. Big mistake. Some things cannot be unseen. Thousands of messages. Years of conversations. Plans. Dreams. Complaints about me. Jokes about our marriage. I read until sunrise. By morning, I felt physically sick. One message destroyed me more than the others. The man had asked why she stayed married. Her response was simple. For the kids. That was it. Not love. Not commitment. Not history. The kids. I must have reread that sentence 50 times. Because if it was true, then the marriage I'd been fighting to save had already died years ago. And if it wasn't true, then she had lied to him too. Either way, someone was living in a fantasy. Maybe everyone was. Including me. The man eventually contacted me. I wasn't expecting that. Apparently she had finally confessed everything to him as well. He wanted answers. Imagine that. The affair partner wanted answers. We spoke once. Only once. The conversation lasted 20 minutes. Long enough for both of us to realize we'd been manipulated in different ways. He believed she was separated. Then believed she was preparing to leave. Then believed she was trapped. Every version of the story changed depending on circumstances. By the end of the call, either of us sounded angry. Just exhausted. That conversation changed something inside me. For months I viewed him as the villain. The destroyer of my marriage. But the reality was more complicated. He participated in something terrible. No question. Yet he also seemed to be another casualty of her double life. When the call ended, I sat alone for a long time. Because for the first time, I realized the deception extended far beyond me. The lies had become her entire world. Therapy entered the picture shortly afterward. Individual sessions first. Then couples therapy. Then more individual therapy. I wish I could say it fixed everything. It didn't. What it did was force uncomfortable truths into the open. My wife admitted she had been unhappy for years. Not because of one event. Not because of one argument. Years. She never communicated it properly. Instead, she escaped. Built another identity. Created another relationship. Created another version of herself. The therapist asked whether forgiveness was possible. I hated that question. Not because the answer was no, but because I genuinely didn't know. Some days I missed her. Other days I couldn't stand looking at her. Love and resentment existed simultaneously. The emotional whiplash was exhausting. One session ended with both of us crying. Another ended with us barely speaking. Progress felt impossible. Still, we kept showing up. Mostly because either of us wanted to explain divorce to the children before we were absolutely certain. Or maybe because we were afraid of letting go. About a year after everything came out, we separated. Not dramatically. No screaming. No police. No flying dishes. Just exhaustion. The kind that settles into your bones after carrying too much pain for too long. She moved into an apartment nearby. We shared custody. The children struggled. That remains the part one regret most. Not because the separation happened. Because they paid for mistakes they never made. I watched my son become quieter. I watched my daughter start asking difficult questions. Questions I couldn't answer honestly. At least not yet. Friends eventually learned pieces of the story. Family learned more. Opinions arrived from every direction. Some said I should forgive. Others said I should never speak to her again. None of it helped. Because nobody else had lived inside our marriage. Nobody else knew the years before the betrayal. Or the years after. The truth was messy. Painfully messy. And simple advice couldn't untangle something that complicated. We're legally divorced now. 3 years have passed. The paperwork ended long ago. The emotional aftermath didn't. People assume healing follows a timeline. It doesn't. Some wounds close. Others just become familiar. My ex-wife and I remain civil for the children. Occasionally we even laugh together. Which feels strange considering everything that happened. As far as I know, she no longer uses the Vanessa identity. The affair ended shortly after the truth came out. Ironically, the fantasy couldn't survive reality. Sometimes I wonder whether she misses that version of herself. The woman who existed online. The woman who escaped responsibility. The woman who wasn't trapped by consequences. I never ask. Some questions don't improve anything. Meanwhile, I still struggle with trust. New relationships feel impossible at times. Not because I don't want companionship. Because part of me constantly searches for hidden doors. Hidden phones. Hidden lives. Once you've learned that someone can become two people at once, certainty becomes difficult. Maybe impossible. What stays with me isn't the affair. Not really. It's the realization that I can spend 15 years beside someone and still not know parts of them. That's the thought that wakes me up occasionally. Not anger. Not revenge. Just confusion. The woman I loved existed. I'm certain of that. The mother of my children existed. The partner who helped build our life existed. But Vanessa existed too. And somehow both versions occupied the same body for years. I've replayed everything thousands of times. Searching for the exact moment I should have noticed. The warning sign. The missing piece. Maybe there wasn't one. Maybe some betrayals only become visible after they're already complete. If there's a lesson here, I honestly don't know what it is. I don't think trust is a mistake. I don't think love is a mistake. But I do think people are far more complicated than we want to believe. And sometimes the person sleeping beside you is carrying an entire hidden world. A world you'll only discover after it has already destroyed yours.